Hey guys, we are back with another Untold Urbex. This time around we are going to be doing the high rise. This is actually the biggest video on our channel, although it is a bit older. We filmed this two years ago now.
Wow.
But there are quite a lot of questions that we would like to answer and elaborate on. So we hope you guys enjoy. We're going to go ahead and get into the video. You see quick jump cuts of us going downstairs, but when you have to walk down 13 stories, it gets pretty tiring pretty quickly.
We didn't walk down, but we ran down those stairs.
I remember
on the way
when we
out.
got to the bottom, I thought I was going to throw up. Like when we walked outside and we were looking, I was like,
That wasn't from us, was it?
no, that's an old video. What?
Of us breaking a window in?
No, not that. I'm not saying we broke it. I just couldn't remember because I know that we heard them throwing stuff. I didn't know
you
if
thought we filmed it. you're saying.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good reminder of how big this building was too. This place was tall.
Yeah.
if
It
nothing
was.
else.
And do you guys actually know how long it was abandoned? I am not quite certain.
I mentioned it in the video, but I didn't hear it this time around. I think it closed in 2016, 2015.
So not too long, really.
Check this out, guys. There's still cars left in this parking garage, like right there.
I feel like that was such an apocalypse feel to it.
Yeah,
Dude,
for
stepping
sure.
into this dark area, and there was 2 or 3 burned out cars. That was pretty cool.
I don't know, like, obviously I would never want to be in an environment like that with the people doing stuff like that, but I feel like that would have been a cool image. Just like these
totally.
cars
Yeah.
burning in this really dark room.
I think like this is also, like we said, filmed a while ago. I think this was one of the first times that we saw a car in an abandoned place.
Yeah,
So
probably.
it was
That's true,
pretty-
yeah,
It was
probably.
pretty jarring for us.
And to put it in perspective, when we say filmed a while ago, I don't even think I had a camera at that point.
Yeah, you were using your phone.
I was
remember.
just slowly starting to get seriously joined up with the channel and getting into some real work. So the amount of shopping carts that we found in abandoned buildings, I feel like we found a lot of shopping
Say,
carts in abandoned buildings.
haven't found a lot of cars. Sure have found a lot of cars.
Sorry, bless me. Excuse
Salud.
me.
Bless me.
And I was like, well, I know of this clapped out building that we can go and see for the height.
That's right. No, I do remember that. We talked about it later because we're like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll do what we can. We'll edit it.
Because I knew it was clapped out, but I was like, well, it's tall, so it'll make for a good view and some good drone footage.
Little did we know.
Yeah.
I love those forced perspective shots that we do there, honestly. I feel like we should try to incorporate those a little more often.
That has to be one of my favorite things about, I would say, urban exploring, because, we spend a lot of our time focusing on filming. That's important to us. So sometimes setting down the camera and just walking in silence is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
you actually take a second as you're walking and you're like, holy crap, this whole area is void of life. There's nobody here.
Yeah. Tommy, are you wearing my sweatshirt in this?
Yeah, because I was cold and I didn't have a sweatshirt.
That's right.
So you were like, here, I have an extra one.
To clarify too, for a building only being abandoned for, I mean, what, 6 years? Was it even that at the time that we went?
We filmed this in 22, so yeah,
6 years, right on?
7 years.
6
Man,
years, that's
yeah.
not a long time
Yeah.
for abandoned buildings. Some of the buildings we've gone into have been abandoned for 20 or 30 years and look similar to this, so comparatively speaking, that's a rather short time for how destroyed this building was.
Wasn't this one not all the way finished, though? Like, remember on the top floor, wasn't there still, like, some insulation bare and everything?
I think that was just from water damage.
Yeah, I think that was just
Because
from
this
water
place was
damage.
like fully, finished and lived in for years and years before it was abandoned.
That's
so.
true, that's true.
Because it was more of like low income housing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Apparently, we even had one of the former residents in our comment section.
Apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah, we
can't
no way to
prove it,
verify that.
But
I thought you were going to say there was someone breaking into your car, and I was like, well, at least I got it on camera.
That's a lesson we've had to learn, is to always record. Always record.
Yeah.
that's true. No, that's true. At the very least, it's entertaining.
When you see that road out there too, it looks like a normal road. There is bowling ball size craters.
Yeah.
It looked like someone dropped a meteor on those
man.
roads. They are so destroyed. And it was so hard to just get close to the building.
And it's literally that one section. Like right in front of the building, they have barriers on each side, and then on the other side of those barriers, the road is perfectly fine. But right in there between, it's just torn up.
Not to mention all the broken glass.
Yeah.
I don't know how we didn't lose a tire.
I get a lot of questions that people ask, how do you keep track of these buildings, or is it really that easy to get lost? And it is so hard.
Your solution,
Tommy is
right
the
here.
one that keeps track.
Tommy is the solution without question.
We're very thankful for, because me and Todd would have died. Really hard to get through a building when there are no lights. You don't think about buildings not having lights. When they are pitch black, I mean, you just have no idea. All the doors look the same. All the hallways look the same. Everything looks similar.
I just have a good memory when it comes to that, I guess. I think it also stems from years of playing games as a completionist, like Last of Us, games like that. I try to explore every single corner because I don't want to miss anything in the game. So I think that helps when it comes to exploring.
And they say video games can't teach you anything useful. Yeah, we're very anti-vandalism, if we haven't made that abundantly clear. You know what I mean? Because not only is it very illegal, it's also just, you're ruining the experience for other people potentially, and it's just disrespectful. Don't go into an abandoned building to destroy stuff, please.
Because then you have places like this that at one point were probably really cool, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
interesting stuff, and they're destroyed. The windows are blown out. The porcelain in all the bathrooms is destroyed. There's nothing left. You're ruining history. And that's the whole point of us doing these videos, is to show you guys a little bit of these places before they disappear.
Not to mention, too, in some instances, vandalism has been the cause that has prevented a property from being rehabilitated or reused.
Yeah.
And that's even more wasted potential. So, yeah, don't break stuff.
We often get questions about, is this dangerous going through these abandoned areas, whether it's structurally or dealing with people? Yes, it is. There's no getting around that, but we try to be smart and prevent risk to ourselves and to the building. So we normally are sticking close together and testing walkways and steps and doors and things like that beforehand. We don't just go running through buildings. That's also why we don't shout at each other when we're in buildings. All the time, people ask us,
Oh, dude.
why do you whisper? We whisper because A, we don't want to get caught, and B, we don't want to get caught by other people.
If I had $1 for every time we got a comment from someone that says, "Why are you whispering?" Oh, we would be rich.
Why would you yell in an abandoned building? That makes zero sense.
Honestly, if we could sum up the whole reason why we whisper with the end of this video.
Yeah.
Because great example coming up. No, that was a hike.
Yeah, and we're walking up with backpacks, boots,
Yeah.
jeans.
Water bottles.
I would say it's a pretty regular basis that we find pills and needles in abandoned buildings. Obviously, we don't touch them or have anything to do with them, but it's pretty common that we run into that stuff there. It's kind of just something we expect at this point.
I get that it's illegal, so you don't want to get caught shooting yourself up with something, but of all the places, why the dirtiest, least structurally safe place you could possibly find in Cleveland?
Talk about a killer view.
Yeah, that view is worth it though.
One of the best parts of this place, well, the best part probably of this place, was the view.
It's so cool to go from a destroyed building. It's almost like you feel like you're stepping outside of it for a second, and you're overlooking Cleveland, and you can see the lake in the background. It's this really kind of almost like a juxtaposition. You're inside of this destroyed building looking out at nature, and it's kind of interesting. Well, civilization, I should say.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say the same thing too. It's like, even places as destroyed as this, there's something beautiful about it. And it kind of like there was a lady that came up to us after we left, and we were getting drone footage and she was asking us what we were doing, and like, you know, when we said we were in that building, she was like, why? It's condemned, like it's been there for years. And it, like, you know, to an average person, it does just look like a destroyed building, but I'd like to think that we do a good job at showcasing the beautiful things of all of these buildings.
Perspective.
Like that.
It's about
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Even in the darkest, dirtiest places, you could find
Right.
beautiful
Just like
things.
that right there. I mean, you're looking at greenery inside of this building. That's so cool.
Right.
How
Also, freaking ad.
More ads? Wow.
I would like to point out, because we missed it there because we were talking, but we mentioned in the video too how there wasn't a 13, like a 13th floor. It went from 12 to 14 because 13 is widely known as like a bad luck number. People in the comments were like berating us for that. And they were like, oh, this like 13 propaganda, but like, you know, you're spreading misinformation, like blaming us for the fact that this hotel didn't have a 13th floor, as if it was our problem, like our fault. Like, we're not spreading misinformation. Like, that is the legitimate reason why a lot of hotels, especially older ones and apartments, don't have a 13th floor, because 13 is associated with bad luck. That's just the truth.
Right.
I'm about to say, like, that's not anything that we made up. That's
Right.
You can Google that right now.
I just felt like pointing that out because we got more comments about that than I thought we would, and I was like, how are you mad about this right now? All right, here's the big moment, the big pivotal moment.
The reason this video is on the map in the first
Yeah.
place.
So,
Explain what you.
just real quick, I would like to say something, because I'm the one that saw these people, and we got accused of a lot of things, like, oh, those are your friends. That was a big one that we saw. And I would just like to point out that I saw these people before I filmed them. I went over and I peeked over the edge, just because, if you noticed earlier in the video, I did the same thing when we were at the bottom. I looked all the way up and I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. You know, I just wanted to see what it looked like at the top. So I went over and I looked without my camera and saw those people standing there looking up at us.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that when you run into other explorers or homeless people, they don't start charging after you.
Right.
That's not a normal human reaction. We have ran into people before, and normally both parties are terrified.
Right.
And we just put our hands up and are like, hey, Tommy looked down at these guys and they start running towards us, running. They
Sprinting.
didn't just kind of like ignore us. Sometimes people just ignore us and they go on their way. They started running. So you can't blame us for feeling unsafe in that moment.
Right.
And we felt unsafe, and we're going to take that precaution to keep ourselves safe, because we recognize that exploring is dangerous and that people can be dangerous. We don't know. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were nice. But there's no way of telling, and we're not going to take that risk. But anyways, Tommy walks over and says, there's people coming up the stairs. And me and Todd both go, what? And he goes, yeah, they're coming up the stairs. We should go. And we're like, holy crap.
Let's go.
So you can see the building is really long. It's real long and skinny. And so we ran from the left side, if you're looking at the building from the outside, we ran from the left side all the way to the right, and then all the way down the stairs.
And I mean, I will say too, Jeremiah kind of mentioned that Tommy was like, hey, there's people coming down the stairs. Tommy was almost giggling and smiling, not because he was happy, but I genuinely think he might have been in shock. Because
it was like, I guess that's the best way to put it, is shock, because we'll just worry about it later. I guess that's the best way to put it, is shock, because it was like, I couldn't believe that was happening. Like every time we go into these places, we always kind of prepare ourselves before we go in of what could happen, like the possibilities of, we have to be prepared for everything. So we always kind of prepared ourselves for something like this, but it never actually happened. So, like, when I saw the people the first time before I filmed them, I started running things through my head of like, oh, well, they could be other explorers, just every possibility. And then I filmed them and they started running up the stairs. And I realized what was happening, but it also took me a second. So the way it came out was me laughing and saying, "Hey guys, there's people coming up the stairs."
Just threw Jeremiah and I off so much because we're like, okay, we should run.
Yeah, we should not be here.
Why are you
We should not be here. But yeah, lesson learned. And so just to reiterate and then move on, we don't know those people. We didn't set that up. We didn't have someone go 14 floors down
Right.
to then come back up and start running up the stairs. That is a ridiculous amount of work to put
Right.
all that into a video.
Right.
And we saw some people. We're in the middle of Cleveland. It's kind of busy. We had a lady tell us that we shouldn't hang around at night. It's a obviously well-trafficked building because it's totally destroyed. And that was just a situation we run into.
Yeah.
We've had that situation before. This one we just caught on camera.
Yeah. If you have watched any of our videos, you would know it's just the three of us all the time. When I, like, way back when I first started the channel, it was like, it would be me and Todd one time and then me and another friend another time. But it's like, at the beginning of the older videos, I would always introduce who was with us. And you know, we would get on with it. But at this point, it had been just me, Todd, and Jay for a long time. So I would hope that anyone that had been watching our videos would have known that we don't know those people. We didn't know those people.
At the end of the day, we can sit here and tell you exactly what happened until we're blue in the face. Some of you still aren't going to believe us, but we wanted to set the record straight. You know, we don't know those people. We felt like we were in danger. We don't feel like we overreacted. We saw a potential threat and we got out.
Because there are other people in here and we don't know what they want. So,
Way to state exactly what everybody just said, Todd.
Unfortunately, going down 14 flights of stairs is also as difficult as going up 14 flights of stairs in a rush.
While carrying cameras
Yeah.
and bags and water bottles.
If Jay had his camera that he has now back then, I think you might have actually thrown up at the bottom of the stairs.
But yeah, no. So we ran down the opposite staircase from which they were coming. This is us on the street now. We're just focused on getting out. Because again, we don't know for certain we're in danger, but we have a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we're
You'll see that road totally destroyed, just as
Yep.
we were talking about. There are
all those
huge
potholes.
craters.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
I also want to point out something. You know, at this point, we still didn't know what those guys were there for. We didn't know if they were coming after us, which we assumed they were. So we were like, well, we'll get drone footage, and if we see them start coming out the building towards us, we'll hop in the car, and Jay can just fly the drone to wherever we parked the car at. While we were getting drone footage, we could see them leaning out a balcony on the same floor that we were just on, looking at us, like watching us. The whole time that we were standing there getting drone footage, they were watching us. And we could hear them smashing stuff and like yelling from where and the car was parked pretty far away, and we could hear them smashing stuff and yelling. So they were obviously there to damage the building, and if they were there to do that, then they could have very easily
been there to harm us.
Yeah, they could have very easily been there to try and harm us or take our stuff or, you know, whatever. The thing I want to point out is, here in a second, you can see them walking out the back of the building, they were going to the same path that we used to get to the building. So if we would have stayed there much longer, they would have come around right to where we were parked.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we literally left at the perfect time. But, I mean, obviously I'll show it in the video, but in one of these drone shots, you can clearly see them walking.
This is something you always have to be aware of when urban exploring, especially with buildings like this that are frequented by drug dealers and criminals. Always be aware of your surroundings.
I think it's
Hope
this
you
shot
enjoyed
right
the
here.
video, And thanks for watching.
Yeah.
And towards the bottom there.
Yep.
In the bottom right corner, you'll see them.
Man, watching it now after all like these 2 years, you really do come to think like, man, we were kind of scooting the line there a little bit. We were not in a safe, like that was not a safe position for us to be in.
Yeah. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed watching this, please like and subscribe. We'll be having some more content like this coming out in the future where we kind of go behind the scenes and talk about the different stories and videos we have, and maybe even some of the places that we never put on YouTube as well.